Hey everyone, back tuning into today's video. We're going to look at weather for the rest of November. Today it looks as though high pressure going to be staying largely in control actually for the rest of the month, but I think we are going to bring in milder air as we go through next week. You should start seeing temperatures lifting up as milder air starts to come around the top of the high pressure and round into the British Isles. Now, before we go on, just talk about the advertising. There's a video ads on my page at gazwebbiz.com. Hit play on the video ad. You'll be supporting gazwebbiz.com. Thanks very much for doing that. So we'll start off very quickly with the Arctic oscillation observed and forecast chart, just showing where the Arctic oscillation has been and where the Arctic oscillation is forecast to go. Remember, the Arctic oscillation is an index that is reflecting the state of the atmosphere over the Arctic. It is not driving anything. It's been very positive through a large part of November. Look how positive it's been with this black line going well up into positive Arctic oscillation territory. Now that indicates that there's low pressure up over the pole and the cold air sort of locked in over the North Pole. In the last few days the Arctic oscillation has gone, well, it's not gone negative, it has dropped down a little bit, and it's actually forecast to go very slightly negative in the next day or so. So this is associated with the drop in temperature that we've experienced and trying to get a little bit of blocking going up in the northern latitudes, but very half-hearted stuff. And it looks so actually as we go through to the end of November and the start of December. This is December the 1st, just here. It looks as though the Arctic oscillation will be going positive once again. Now this is telling us that low pressure will be reforming over the Arctic. The polar vortex will be coming back. So it's likely that we're going to see the cold continue to be largely locked in over large parts of the North Pole in the coming week or two. The North Atlantic oscillation, which is the same idea, it's an index reflecting the state of the atmosphere in the Arctic. It isn't driving anything. Again, observed and forecast, the black lines where we've been, the red line where we're going to go. And again, through November, the North Atlantic oscillation has been largely positive, which is telling us we've got low pressure around Iceland, high pressure is in the Azores, in mid-Atlantic, and we've got strong westerly flows coming across the Atlantic. Again, very soon to the Arctic oscillation, going to go ever so slightly negative in the next day or two, but then again, the evidence on this, with all these red lines going back up into positive territory, is that the North Atlantic oscillation, as with the Arctic oscillation, will be going more positive as we go to the end of November and into the start of December. So what this means, essentially, is that we're going to have high pressure sitting in the Atlantic and low pressure up in the North Pole. And this is what the 500 millibar height anomaly flow charts are showing for 8 to 10 days time. So we've got the ECMWF here on the left, the GFS is on the right. The blue colours below average heights, the red colours above average heights. So red is high pressure, blue is low pressure. The ECMWF showing that we've got a lot of low pressure up in the pole for 8 to 10 days time. This area of high pressure sitting just to the west of the British Isles here. This is British Isles just there. So again, the jet stream is running around the top of that high pressure, then coming down, and we're bringing fairly mild air in off the Atlantic around that area of high pressure. GFS very similar with that as well. The blue colours up over the pole. So again, lots of low pressure up over the northern latitudes. Got the high pressure sitting over and to the west of the British Isles in the Atlantic. And again, the jet stream is coming around the top of that high pressure and then coming southwards around this trough that's sitting in the South Europe. And that's quite interesting. That trough there across southern parts of Europe will be bringing colder air in, I think, to southern, eastern and southeastern parts of Europe. But for us, we're near that warm ridge in the Atlantic, so it is likely that the temperatures will be picking up, I think, through the course of next week. GFS temperature ensembles are showing this very nicely. The red line is where we should be at this time of year, and it is below average at the moment. It is quite cold, I'd like to say quite cold, for a few days, going out to around the 25th, 26th of November, something like that. But by the time we get through to 27th, certainly evidence then that we're starting to pick those temperature, we're starting to pick the temperatures up in the upper atmosphere. Now, whether that translates down onto the surface, it depends exactly where that high pressure is sitting, but very good evidence there of a warm-up taking place in the final days of December. And then we tend to keep it quite mild going out through the rest of the month in towards the start of December. This is December the 1st, just here, and yeah, many members of the ensemble are going quite mild, although there is a lot of scatter there, so there are quite a few members that go cold again into December. We have to watch that with that exact position of the high pressure. It has to change very slightly, and we'll start to bring in colder air from the north, because the air going around the high pressure is generally northwesterly. So because the air is originating in from a mild point of the Atlantic, that's why the mild air is being dumped around the top. But it only takes a very subtle difference, and we could start to bring cooler air in, and that's what some of these members of the ensemble are showing, I think. Going to be quite dry as well over the next couple of weeks, if this is right. Hardly any precipitation spikes up to around the 27th, then we get a few come back, but basically a lot of dry weather, and it's not surprising with that high pressure sitting just west. 10-day temperature ensemble show that from 23rd to the 28th we're going to be below average, and most of Europe will be below average as well. And this being skewed by the early part of this period, I think as we get through to around that 27-28 period, we'll start to turn it milder. But certainly the first few days, the next rest of this week and into the weekend, is going to be quite cold. So below average for Britain and the most of Central and Western Europe for the coming week as an anomaly, but lifting up later in the period. This is the GFS chart for Monday. The high pressure sitting just west of the country, quickly running through this, and it's basically a case of high pressure. There it is, sitting just to the west, a strong feature. There's the warmer air coming around the top of the high pressure from the Atlantic, moving into the high pressure, lifting the temperatures up, and that's how we go into Wednesday on into Thursday as well. High pressure very much dominating the weather, but we're generally bringing in quite a mildish sort of air off the Atlantic around that high pressure. No change as we go through to day 10, which is Sunday the 1st of December. The high pressure is just to the south. Again, we're bringing that westerly flow in, so it is quite mild. Temperatures for the middle of the week showing that we're into double figures quite widely. Temperatures up to 10, 11 degrees, certainly a lot milder than it is now, and it stays like them through most of next week. Temperatures staying around the 8 to 10, 11, 12 degree mark. Notice it is cold though across much of the continent. It will be cold to the east of us, and as I say, it only takes a very subtle change in the position of the high pressure to start to bring this colder air in. So we do have to keep an eye on it. Whether the position of the high pressure will change over time, I'm sure it will, of course. Nothing lasts forever in terms of the weather. So we do have to keep an eye on that. Here's the GFS, the ECMWF, chart for Monday. Again, high pressure sitting over the country. We'll start off quite cool next week, but I think later on next week through to the middle of the week, you start to bring the milder air around the top of that high pressure as it just shifts ever so slightly to the west and the southwest, and that's how we're going to the middle of the week. High pressure firmly in control, and again we're bringing mild air around the top, of the milder air around the top. Day 10 quite interesting on the ECMWF. The high pressure's pulled out further west and is allowing colder air to come down from the north. So that's just what I was talking about, that as we saw within the GFS ensembles, we do have to keep an eye on the exact position of the high pressure, just in case we start to bring cooler or colder air in from the north or the northeast. But overall, I think we are looking at a milder change to the temperatures next week. Starting off quite cold. It's going to be cold for the rest of this week and into the weekend. Probably quite cold still on Monday, but I think through the middle of next week, temperatures will lift up. It will become quite mild through next week, and that's probably how we end November, on a fairly mildish and largely dry note, with that high pressure sitting just to the west of the southwest. The big drawback with this is that we're probably going to have a lot of low cloud and anticyclonic gloom with this high pressure, so prepare for a very sort of dull, dank week next week, and despite the fact that it's mild, it's going to be pretty grim, I think, actually, to look at. Lots of dank, cloudy weather coming up, but as I said, temperatures lifting up, so that's the plus side. That's it for now. I'll be doing the Christmas forecast. It'll be the 10th one, can you believe? So come back to that around 7 o'clock on the events page, but that's it for now. Thanks for watching.